Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Giver. We're here with a very special guest,
I'm special.
the newly retired,
Yes, newly retired.
my husband, Iain Valliere.
Thank you very much.
I've been saying that he's going to come on for 3 weeks now,
Well, I'm here now.
and the stars aligned, and we're here.
Yep.
The stars actually mostly aligned because you're a lot more flexible.
Yes.
Your time is mine
I
now.
don't have to get in 3 meals in the duration of this podcast.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier for everybody.
Yeah. He no longer has the excuse that he used to have. I'm sure all the husbands watching know when a wife's like, oh, I want to go do this. I want to go do that. Ian's like, I can't. I have to eat. I have to sleep. I'm a bodybuilder now. You have to do it all.
I don't have to, but I'm also more wanting to, because these are a lot of things that I know I passed up because I was so focused on getting my meals in, making sure I was, feeling ready and energized for my training. My day completely revolved around that.
Yeah.
Like it revolved around food and being ready and optimized for my training. And obviously we're in a brave new world now, so it's not a big deal. All these things that I would have, maybe, put on the back burner because I was worried about how it would affect my performance in the gym or my energy levels, or my ability to kind of, get my meals in a timely fashion, which might be giving me anxiety in terms of like, how am I going to, be like an hour late for my meal and then it's going to push back the next 1 hour. I'm going to be stuffing them together. I'm going to be friggin' stuffed or I'm going to be up till 3:00 in the morning getting food in. That's definitely the biggest initial relief is just the food aspect for sure.
Yeah. It used to consume your entire being, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's rewind a little bit. The last time you were on here, I think it was post Toronto, right? You had just won Toronto, or was it before Toronto?
I don't know. It's your podcast. You tell me.
I think it might have been before Toronto, but
It might have been on since Toronto. I can't remember.
Actually, you have.
I think I have.
For sure you have.
Definitely.
We did a Q&A, but let's talk about how you came to this decision. Let's talk about, let's just start there.
Sure.
What do you think? Why now?
It's just something, and me obviously, and you're very, involved in an intimate way in my life. That this is something that obviously had kind of been on my mind for not just like a couple weeks. This has been something that I've been dwelling on for well over a year.
Yeah.
Maybe not in such a realistic fashion, but definitely kind of that inkling of like that this time was coming and my enjoyment of what I was doing was diminishing. And it was really starting to affect my, just like my whole outlook on my days and on life and my optimism and really my just overall sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
It was something that I wasn't really gaining any more fulfillment from. And, when we pair that with how all-consuming bodybuilding is, and also, with the potential toll it takes on you, it just became to a point where the scales had tipped in terms of, with that being what I want to do with my time and my life. And, I've been doing this was doing that for 15 years. And in that 15 years, that wasn't a 15 years of, 5 years was 70%, 5 years was 80. And okay, just as I was getting to the Olympic level, it was 100%. That was 15 years of 100%.
I was talking to Aaron, a massage therapist that works here, and he was asking about your retirement and how you're feeling and how it must be so cool. And he was kind of saying like, well, you retired this year. And I was like, it's very different. I was never, ever for a single year since I started competing a 365, 100% bodybuilder. Sure. You know what I mean? It was, and I think probably most of the guys at the top where you were competing, they are 100% bodybuilders.
The majority for sure, yeah.
But I would challenge if they have been that way since the day that they decided to start their journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think one thing people, it's easy to look at and be like, Ian's only 32, I'm almost 33. It's very young to be retiring, which in some ways it is, if you're looking at it just in like a strictly age sense. But when you look at my age in the sport, I started doing this when I was 18 years old.
Well, retiring also doesn't mean that you're retired.
Well, retired from competition.
Exactly.
But, this is 15 years of, this is the same as a lot of these guys that are getting to the sport now in their mid-20s, early 20s, mid-20s, 25, 24, 26. and going till you're 40 years old. You know, mine just started earlier. You know, I started 18, and when I started 18, that was 100%. I dropped out of college. I dedicated my entire life to bodybuilding.
Yeah.
You know, right from the offset, you know, I was hiring coaches. I was getting in the gym. I had a plan. You know, this wasn't me just like aimlessly wandering and navigating that road for a few years on my own and kind of, you know, dicking around. Like, this was right from the beginning, 100% in, all my meals, all my training, my entire life dedicated to being a bodybuilder. You know, so that's 15 hard years that I'm very proud of, that I can, you know, I think the biggest thing is that I can come out of it on the other side without regret.
Yeah.
You know, I think I was getting to the point where I was starting to feel that if I kept going with it, there might be a sense of regret there. And that's like, I should have hung it up 1 year before. I shouldn't have done that last show. You know, especially when the joy is starting to diminish in that. Like, you know, I really got to a point where I wanted to walk away so I could look back at my career fondly. You know, hang it up on a win in Toronto Pro. And Toronto, anyone that's followed me knows that Toronto was like a bucket list win for me, being, you know, the premier Canadian bodybuilding show. You know, I won Vancouver last year. I won Toronto this year. You know, those are the two Canadian pro shows. And, you know, one thing I wanted to kind of cement my legacy is, you know, the forefront of Canadian bodybuilding was to win those two Canadian shows.
Yeah.
You know, I've won more prestigious shows. I've won New York Pro. I've won Tampa Pro. I've won Texas Pro. I've been second at the Arnold. You know, there are shows that maybe have more prestige to them. But I think just like, you know, a guy from the East Coast or New York winning the New York Pro is a very prestigious title.
Yeah.
Toronto Pro was kind of that for me, you know.
Yeah, it's meaningful.
It's meaningful. You know, it has a sense of meaning and to me, and, you know, that was one I really wanted to get. And honestly, after I was done that, I had a feeling of like, I'm good. You know, and I think something that also really cemented in my mind was when I was looking at the Olympia coming up in November, and I was so much more excited to just be there as a fan and a supporter, and, you know, as someone just enjoying the event than I was a competitor. And I know that if you asked almost everybody else competing in that Mr. Olympia, it wouldn't be the same. You know, I think those guys would be so excited to get on the Olympia stage. They'd be very excited to compete. They'd be excited to, you know, get there and do that process and stuff. And I just didn't have that feeling anymore. You know, I had a feeling of like of fulfillment from what I've done, and peace about what I've done, but a huge level of excitement to kind of be on the other side of it. You know, be there as a fan, be there, you know, to support your brother, be there to, you know, hang out the booth with Mike and Fuad, my friends, and Rod and Revive and all this stuff, and just be there in a completely different capacity than I've been there since, you know, in a long time, you know, since 2017, really. So, you know, that made me really excited. And I think when you look at that, it's like, okay, well, clearly something is not aligning here. You know, when you look at that, you know, that alignment, I was like, okay, well, could I push it for 10 more weeks and do the Olympia? Sure. You know, do I think I could be a good version of Iain, a very good version of Iain, be competitive at the Olympia? Absolutely. But that being said, why? Why? And this was a question a lot of people were asking me on my Instagram. It's like, why didn't you just do one more Olympia? It's like, but why? You know? And it's like, it's easy to say looking from the outside in, from someone that's never been up there. I've been up there a bunch of times. You know, I've been 7th at the Olympia multiple times. I've been on that stage in Vegas. I've been there in Orlando. I've done it.
I don't know if it's about someone that's never been up there, because I'm sure there are plenty of people that can see your decision and they've never been up there and not ask that question.
No, but I'm saying I think the majority of that question would be coming from people who haven't been there up there as many times.
No,
that's a goal for them. It's like, man, I always want to be up there, and like, you're passing this opportunity. It's like, and I completely understand that that outlook. But for me, it didn't really bring me anything.
Yeah, but
no, it's like, get up there for what? To do one more show? It's like,
no,
I could say I did one more Olympia. That it was getting to the point where that didn't really mean anything to me.
Yeah, but this is the thing that I'm trying to get at. It's not like people that are like envious of the Olympia. It's people that are like envious of success. And I think the older that you get, you realize that happiness, like success, does not equal happiness. So we don't just do things because we can or because we're good at them.
Yeah.
We do them because they bring something to our lives.
Yeah, and it wasn't bringing anything to my life that I could account for. You know, so it really came to a point where I had to weigh it. It's like, okay, 10 more weeks of feeling like I'm feeling, and you saw how I was feeling. I wasn't happy. If anything, I was pretty depressed.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't feeling fulfilled with what I was doing, and I was having a lot of fear and anxiety of my long-term health and my ability to transition out of bodybuilding with a body and a mind that was still willing and able to do anything else I wanted to do, you know? And that was a key thing for me. You know, I could have done this a few more years, won some more shows, whatever it was. Okay, but where is my body now coming on the other side of this? Is this a couple more years where I push where, you know, my knees and elbows and my back are things starting to get injuries where my body, when I come out of it, can't do a whole lot, you know? And I want to be like, okay, I can walk out of this and be proud of what I've accomplished, walk out of it with no regret, and walk out of it with a healthy body and a healthy mind that is still excited and able to do whatever the fuck it wants, you know?
Yeah, because you coming out with a healthy body is one thing, but you coming out still being a positive person that doesn't look back at a huge chunk of their life with disdain or regret, that is something that's going to create a more fruitful, a more successful future for you, right?
Sure.
There are some people that I think push things so hard, they end up getting bitter and angry. And
I was getting to that point.
Yeah.
You know, I was getting to the point where, look, I can be a bodybuilding robot. I can get in there and operate at 110% every day, eat all my meals, do all the training. But it was getting to a point where it wasn't enjoying for me. You know, I wasn't enjoying it, you know,
babe, I think it was quite the opposite.
It was, I was like, I had a little bit of disdain for it, and I didn't want to continue that so that it changed my opinion looking back in my career.
Yeah.
You know, I want to walk out of it as like a win in Toronto. I'm happy with that. I did it with Matt, which was something that was very meaningful to me. And I could come out on the other side, like being very happy and proud and not having any kind of animosity towards bodybuilding in my career. You know? Yeah.
How long do you think you were feeling this way?
It's hard to pinpoint an exact time, you know, because this is a feeling that grows and creeps in your mind, you know, and, you know, it's something that, you know, after you do for so long, there's something that obviously wants to pull you and hold you towards it because it's like everything, you know, it's all I've done my entire adult life. It's comfortable. You know, and there's obviously fear of change and stuff like that. You know, so I it's really hard to say, you know, it definitely over a year, maybe even more than that. You know, I know, you know, a couple of the preps I'd done over the last few years just didn't quite feel the same as the ones before. And I don't even mean from a physical standpoint. I mean from a mental standpoint. You know, I was really kind of like pushing myself and dragging myself through it versus like I remember preps, you know, Texas, Tampa that year, you know, all those kind of shows where like I was so looking forward to every minute of it. You know, like I was excited to train. I was excited to be up on stage. I was excited for the whole adventure that is bodybuilding.
To be hungry, to be tired.
I was excited and embraced that, where as each show kind of went, it was kind of like a little more kind of dragging myself through it because my mind just wasn't there. And, you know, one thing your brother said to me when we were talking about it, he's like, you know, man, it gets to a point where the body's going to follow how the mind feels, you know, and I really felt that's what it was. Like, you know, my body just was like, it could tell that my head wasn't in it the same in terms of desire. And it got to a point where I'm just like, you know, I'm good. Yeah.
So why do you think, if it's been a few preps or whatever, over a year, why now? Like what do you think made you feel like you, I mean, really trusted yourself enough to decide this? Because I think when you're trying to make a decision like this that feels really permanent, you're almost like, is this actually how I feel? Am I just being anxious? Am I just being depressed? Is this like,
sure.
I should be thankful. I should want to do this because I can't. Like, why now? This like level of trust that you know that there's a misalignment from probably your mind, body, soul for you to like.
Yeah, I mean, look, it took a lot of conversations, a lot of soul searching. It wasn't like a decision that like just popped in my mind one day, you know? You know, it's hard to really give an answer to that. You know, it's not like a why now. It was more like I did Toronto. I was done with that. And then I could feel, like I said, that I wasn't optimistic for the Olympia. And that was really the first time I'd felt that, you know, in that sense. Like last Olympia wasn't the same as previous ones, but I still was excited for it. This one was the first one where I just really wasn't excited to be there as a competitor. You know, and, you know, I think I could really tell where my mental health and my mental standpoint was, you know, doing like a lot of work with myself and talking to, you know, Jordan and stuff like that, or therapists and stuff, and really understanding kind of how I was feeling about everything, you know, and understanding why I was feeling that way, you know, and I got to a point where I really just wanted to feel excited and optimistic about life again. And I knew that bodybuilding wasn't the answer to that anymore, you know? So, you know, it's not like there was like a switch that was flipped and one day I figured it out, you know? Like I said, it was a process of time and, you know, a lot of soul searching and thinking about things and thinking of like, okay, well, maybe I should just do this, or maybe I should just do this, or, you know, but it came to a point where it was just like the enjoyment just wasn't there. And the excitement to do other things was completely overarching all of that, you know? So then I got to it where I'm like, okay, well, if I feel this way and the lack of excitement to bodybuild has diminished and the increase in excitement to do other things has built a lot more, because say this is maybe the difference. In the past, there might have been a diminished feeling about bodybuilding, but I wasn't so excited to do other things and to live a normal life, but, you know, not a professional bodybuilder's life. You know, I didn't have that building, and it got to a point where one kind of weighed out the other. And when you pair that, like I said, with the fear of the long-term consequences with bodybuilding, it got to a point where it just didn't really make sense in my head anymore. You know?
It wasn't worth it anymore.
No, yeah, you know, I felt like I was good and I was at peace and at ease, and that took some time to get to that point. You know, I think you need to live in the shit a little bit to kind of really feel that, you know. It took me a long time of living in the shit to really feel that, you know. And I think that was mostly out of fear of change. But I think when it got to a point where I was like, starting to get really excited to try and do other things and feel excited about new fitness goals and new life goals, then I was like, well, if I'm so excited to do other things and I'm not that excited to do bodybuilding, why am I doing it? I don't have to be doing this. You know, this isn't something I have to be doing. Nothing's holding me here, you know? So it was like, this decision makes sense now, you know? And I think, like I said, when I, you know, also looked at it from where my body was and still feeling good and healthy, I've had no injuries, I have no internal health issues, and I want to keep it that way. And not to say if I'd done one more Olympia prep or one more year, 2 more years, but you don't know. And I know how I felt now. I know how my body feels now. And I was just very ready and excited for change, you know?
Can I offer my perspective?
Sure. Yeah.
I think, honestly, probably just last year, it felt really similar to how you were feeling this year. I do think this year there seems to be more of a curiosity in your own feelings.
Yeah.
Whereas before, it was almost just like, well, this is how I feel, and I just have to deal with it.
Yes.
This year, there's a lot more curiosity, which I think has led to a lot more self-awareness and a lot more ability to honestly see other things that could bring you joy.
Yeah.
But before, there was not even an option of joy.
No.
Because it was just like...
It was one thing and one thing only.
Exactly.
And I hadn't even entertained the idea of doing other things.
You couldn't.
No. And I think that's, you know, hitting the nail on the head and what I was trying to kind of get around to, you know, in terms of, you know, being excited for other things and not as excited for bodybuilding. You know, before I wasn't even entertaining those ideas because it's like, this is what I'm doing. I have to keep doing it, you know. But then when you come to this realization that you don't, you know, and that there's so many other awesome and beautiful things to explore in life that I haven't done at all, you know, like in terms of other fitness goals, travel, spending time with family, you know, a million other things that I would love to do and dive into a lot more while I'm still young and healthy is, you know, kind of what I'm trying to say, you know, really started to feel so much more exciting for me. You know? Yeah.
I think Mike's wife, Kat, I want to have her on here because we were talking about this when we were at the cottage, and we were talking about like the meaning of life and like very deep conversations. But we kind of looked at each other and we were like, we don't really care. Like at the end of the day, if I can like be in my moments and enjoy them and make decisions that make me feel good, and that's not selfish. I'm not saying that in a selfish way because like you're saying there are other things that like I'm excited for, traveling, spending time with my family. Like these are like connection with people. It's meaningful.
Very, yeah.
And if you stop putting so much pressure on like, I have to buy a house, I have to be a millionaire, I have to have whatever the society or your family or whatever, and you just realize that like every day, if you just try to be a good person and feel fulfilled, because you're going to die anyways.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's just a lot less pressure to feel stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, you know, and it got to a point where I didn't think accomplishing more things in bodybuilding was going to make me feel any different or any more fulfilled.
Yeah.
You know, and I said this on the video I put out, you know, if I'd gone to this Olympia, and I'm not saying this is a reality because I don't believe it is, but even if I had gone to the Olympia and placed higher than I've ever placed, placed 5th place, let's say, made it in the first call out, holy cow, would I have felt any different and reignited some kind of passion in it? No.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like the being on stage or the competitiveness that like I didn't enjoy. It was what it was draining from the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, my fear of my health, my, you know, pressure in terms of the training, it kind of sucked the joy out of training.
Yeah.
You know, which, let's be serious, the vast majority of bodybuilders get into bodybuilding because they just fucking love training. They love training. They love being able to manipulate their physique and build the physique.
Yeah, I was going to say, either you like the way you look. Like,
yeah, but once you've been doing this as a career for so long, it really changes that dynamic.
Yeah.
And even going to the gym, you know what I mean? I think it's pretty evident when you look back at what I've been doing for the last while in terms of trying to work with the hypertrophy coach, going and train with Mike. And I was really searching for something.
Yeah. Grasping.
For something to kind of like reignite that in the desire.
Yeah.
But I came to the realization that it wasn't my love of training that had diminished. It was why my love of training had diminished. You know, it wasn't like that I just didn't like training anymore and I was like needed something new to kind of revamp it. It was why it had changed, you know, which are like the reasons I just said, you know. So
the pressure, it's interesting because the pressure that you put on yourself or you used to in the gym to kind of like 100% intensity all the time, something always has to be improving, whether it's reps, quality, number, strength, whatever. You used to almost put that on me. And I remember you being like, well, what did you do today? Or like, what are you going to do today? Or you can't just train like you, whatever. Yeah. And I obviously had a different amount of pressure on me, but I think I'm also a very different personality than you. And I was just like, well, I'm just doing what fucking feels good.
Yeah.
Because that's why I do this.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this so I can go win the Olympia. Sure. You know what I mean? And if that's your goal, fantastic. Right. But that goal, I'm sure, is enough to drive you.
Yeah.
I never really thought that accomplishing that or winning X amount of shows or winning the Arnold was ever going to make me happier.
Yes. And that's kind of the realization that I eventually came to, you know? And look, if I hadn't already exceeded what I had set out to accomplish in my initial vision and goal of my career in bodybuilding, maybe I would feel different.
What was that, by the way?
Way less than I did.
Was it just winning a pro card? What was it?
It's hard to say because when I started off, I knew nothing about this world.
Yeah.
You know, I just wanted to win my first show and then get a pro card. And, you know, the idea of even being on a pro stage or winning a pro show was something that was like so outlandish and like so big. I didn't even really think about it until it happened.
Yeah.
You know? So like my goals were much smaller than what I eventually ended up accomplishing.
Yeah.
Know? So like when I look at it, and it's easier to look at now being out of it a little more, you know, like when you're in it, it's obviously like next thing, which I think being very goal driven and oriented is awesome. And I was.
I think the coolest thing is that even when you didn't have those big goals, you still conducted yourself as you did.
Yeah. You know, and like, look, when I step out of on the other side, I'm like, man, I won 6 shows. I've been second at the Arnold. I've been 7th at the Olympia twice, you know, up on that stage 4 or 5 times. you know, I've been in the top 5 of a bunch of other shows, you know, like I'm very content and very proud of what I accomplished.
Well,
and,
I would also
accomplishing more wasn't going to make me feel any different.
I would also argue that obviously those accolades are fantastic and that you've sacrificed a lot to kind of get to say those things, but there's probably more meaningful things that you're like that you've gained from your career.
Yeah, I think honestly what I can, you know, look back and be more proud of than the accolades is that 15 years I gave it 120%, you know, like that I know I didn't leave any stone unturned, you know, and that I went in and pushed myself as hard as I could. I was as diligent as you can be with training and nutrition and supplementation and everything like that. And I think there's a level of peace surrounding that. You know, I think when you look back at something and you're like, man, I wish I'd done this. I wish I'd done this. I wish I'd done this prep been a little better here, pushed a little harder here. And you know, that little voice in the back of your head, you know, that subconscious knows when you didn't put a full-fledged effort into something.
Yeah.
But I don't have that feeling at all. I don't like look back and be like, man, if I'd given it a little more, I could have done this, or I wish I'd done this. I don't even have a semblance of that feeling. You know, I know that I gave it 120% for all the years that I dedicated my life to it. And there's a huge level of peace around that, you know?
Yeah, this is a huge thing that I always try to talk about in terms of like internal drivers and validation versus external, right? Because we can say we have those external things, which would be wins, or let's like take it down a notch to followers or to whatever.
Sure.
But that's not going to help you sleep at night. What's going to help you sleep?
Doing the opposite.
What's going to help you sleep at night is this peace that when you tell yourself you're going to do something, you do it.
Yeah.
And that builds so much confidence, assurity, trust. And that in turn, you trust yourself. You're more able to trust others. You're more able to show up as yourself. And let's be serious, you can't really control these external things. You could do everything right and you could still not get what you want. But if you're actually thinking, what I want to do is challenge myself, push myself, trust myself, do what I said I'm going to do, you can control that. And if you do that and you succeed, you can't even explain how that makes you feel as a person.
No,
That's why I fell in love with bodybuilding, to be honest.
And I'm going to continue that in my life.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's bodybuilding or not. I mean, even stepping out of bodybuilding, or before I was, something that I really wanted to do was get back into a good athletic shape and being able to run again.
Yeah.
That was something I was very passionate about in my youth, and was really my first true love in terms of sports, you know, or athletics or whatever, you know, any kind of individual fitness
training,
pursuit. And you know, as long as you've known me, I've followed track probably closer than I follow bodybuilding.
Yeah.
You know, you go on my YouTube, if it's summer season, it's that season, you know, diamond leagues, it's, you know, world championship, Olympic season. I'm watching the, you know, collegiate seasons, you know, the indoor seasons. I watch all of that and I follow it very closely, and something that I really love. And look, I'm not trying to be a world-class track athlete. I mean, I know that's completely unrealistic, but that's not the point. And just like you were saying with like the goals, my goal is to be better than I am today, you know, to get to a point where I can feel proud that I put in a full-fledged effort and made some progress, and that I did what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I said when I stopped bodybuilding that this is what I was going to do, and I've already followed through with that, and I will continue to. I mean, we ran our first track practice yesterday, which was awesome and very humbling, but a ton of fun. And this is not something that it's like I said I was going to do it, so I'll do it once and then, you know, kind of drift off. Like, this is something I'm dedicated to do and improve, and that makes me very excited to have new goals like that. You know, like my goals have been so strict for so long, of making this progression in bodybuilding and improving this body part, doing this and getting myself better for the stage, that I'm just very excited to test my body in other ways, test my mind in other ways, and just, you know, have new, fun, exciting, fulfilling goals. You know? Yeah.
I think the coolest part when you're starting something new, and you're obviously going to set goals because that's just what humans do, especially if they're like driven by something in particular. But when you're starting something new, you don't know. Like, no. I can't go to the track and say, I'm going to run this fast, or I'm going to do this many kilometers or whatever, because I don't know.
I don't know either.
So you know what I can say to myself? I'm going to try as hard as I fucking can. And when I am running and I want to stop, because let's be serious, it's going to happen.
We felt it already yesterday.
I'm not. I'm not going to stop.
No.
And that was the only goal for yesterday.
Yes.
It was just like, do not stop.
Finish it.
Yes.
Do it all at the best of your abilities.
Yes.
And, you know, one of the guys that was there, you know, a coach that was at the club when I was in my high school years is still around. He was saying, like, look, your body's not going to be able to be what you want it to be right off the hop. He's like, this is going to be 6 weeks, maybe a few more of absolute shit. But he's like, then you'll be so happy you did it, and it's just going to get easier and easier and easier, which is something that, like, I really felt and latched onto. You know? And it's not because I was, like, sitting there, like, suffering. I'm like, oh, I hope this gets better. I had a lot of fucking fun. It was very hard, but it was very different from what I've been doing, and that different was very fun and exciting to me. And it's like, this is the bottom. We're at the bottom of the hill, and it's only up from here. You know, where in bodybuilding, I was kind of like already kind of at the top. And it's like, now you're just trying to like chip away little bits where it's like, this is a whole new endeavor that I'm starting from the absolute bottom, maybe more than the bottom. Cause it's like, I know a lot and know, you know, a lot of the mechanics and things of running, but I'm doing this in a body that is very not.
I was going to say physically.
My body is completely the opposite of what is optimal for running.
Listen,
you know?
it could be worse for sure,
yeah.
but it's not like
It's
me,
certainly not optimal.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I probably am worse in terms of like the mechanics and my coordination and stuff.
Sure.
But in terms,
but I did that a lot, and those patterns never kind of leave,
you're very good with that. But in terms of the weight and the size and the like volume of your body, it's way harder than someone who's in quote unquote good shape and just starting, right?
Yeah. So, you know, it was very fun to, you know, get that first one done and know that I could do it and I didn't die. I didn't tear my quad. I didn't blow my knees out.
I was scared I was going to tear a hamstring, not a quad.
No, and I woke up today. My body feels good. You know, like I'm a little stiff, but not. I feel way better than I expected to, considering we did 2 hours of like not an easy workout for the first one. That was like a pretty. I mean, even some of the kids there that had been training. Well,
she had been off for 3 weeks, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is rough."
And one of the girls said to us, she's like, "This is not like an easy day. So you guys are doing really good here. Like this is hard for us, and we've still been doing this." So that made me feel good. You know, I was like, all right, if I can get through this and finish it all, you know, and we both walked away, I think, with a real sense of like accomplishment for getting that done, and a sense of excitement of like, man, if I got this done, when we build on this, one more training session, you know, it's just going to get better and better and better. And that's very exciting for me.
Listen, I'm obviously less competitive than you.
Yeah.
But I didn't really feel like that. I felt excited just to constantly feel challenged.
Yes.
Listen, I obviously would like to get better, and I'm sure that will happen, but that's not what's like exciting me. It's almost like how I felt during those 2 hours in terms of like,
they go hand in hand.
Yeah, but I'm not excited to like get amazing. I'm honestly just excited to like struggle, like, I said struggle.
But that's the point, is that struggle equals progress.
You're right. You're right.
It's like
pushing through the struggle equals progress. Yes,
equals
you're right.
progress.
You're
and,
right.
You know, yes, there's the sense of fulfillment from pushing through that struggle and feeling that sense of accomplishment. Mm-hmm. But then the byproduct of that is progress.
Yeah, and I had a lot of people kind of saying to me like, "Don't worry, you're doing so good," like all this stuff, and I just thought of like young Melissa, and I was very insecure. You know, I was an insecure kind of teenager, even early 20s probably, and I would have been embarrassed and nervous. Sure. And like, you know, when you don't try as hard because you don't want to look like you're failing.
You did have a quick moment of that.
I did.
Which you snapped yourself up pretty fast. We were doing a fast feet drill, so it's like really quick low feet, and on every third you're doing either like a butt kick or like a high knee step. So it's like tuck tuck up, tuck tuck up, tuck tuck up.
Very very fast.
Butt kick, so it's
very
like,
fast.
And that's obviously something that, you know, is a movement pattern, a level of coordination that isn't super easy to build.
Yeah, but I didn't want to quit. I wanted to do it in private because I was embarrassed.
Exactly. But then I think when you took a moment to realize Nobody gives a shit. And everyone's here to just get better and be better. And we can all be better and work on this together. I think you kind of like relaxed and took that pressure off yourself and then just kept doing it.
Yeah, I think I just kind of was like, I don't really care if nobody gives a shit. I just don't give a shit anymore. Yeah. And if anything, when I was there yesterday and I was like thinking about how I was feeling, and I think I like looked at you at one point, I'm like, this is so fucking fun, and I could barely breathe.
Yeah.
And I was just like, when I have children, I need to instill that they can feel like this no matter what. Mm-hmm. They don't need to be concerned of perception, of not being perfect, of not being the best at something, and like just show up anyways.
I was gonna say, I think there's a much higher level of respect and admiration for people that just fucking try.
Yeah.
Versus people that like are like, I can't do it and shut down. And look, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't think I'd be able to do when he'd be demonstrating it and showing it. I was like, there's no fucking chance the
hurdles
260-pound ass is gonna be able to do this. But I tried and I did it.
Yeah.
And I got better as I did it. And same with you. And with that comes that sense of confidence and accomplishment and motivation to pursue it further. You know? Yeah.
It's also I missed it so much having a coach. You know what I mean? Having someone that's like leading you, telling you what to do, telling you when to do it. It's just so different.
Well, I think also for us, when we're stepping out so far from what we've been doing for so long, I think it's crucial, and especially when you're someone like my size and risk of injury, you need someone with the brains and the know-how to look and be like, maybe you do this instead.
Yeah.
And there was some things. There was one where we
did that a lot with the jumping
with
stuff.
The bounding. Yeah. Like they were doing, like, if anyone that, has run or knows what bounding is, it's kind of like a jumping lunge, almost like one of the steps in triple jump, where you're kind of just doing your first hop and it's kind of like big bounding hops.
It literally looks like you're trying to like run on water.
You're doing
like
a big jumping lunge, and the goal is as fast off the ground as possible.
Minimal time on the ground.
Maximal air time.
Yeah.
Into a lunging position, then hitting the ground quick and up into the next one, which obviously I can't do yet. So he had us doing something different. But, that's where you need someone to be like, no, Because fuck, if I just wrote down a program and saw it, I might just try that and I might hurt myself, And I know that was a lot of the questions I had people asking me is like, how are you going to make sure you don't hurt yourself? It's like, well, I'm going to do it by following the instructions of a smart coach that can look at someone my size and be like, this is not a good idea. Yeah. This is what you can do instead. And he gave us variations.
Yeah.
And that was really the only thing that we didn't do was the bounding. We did all the strides. We did all the technical stuff. We did all the, core work.
The funniest part was when he was like, okay,
you're a little off.
Okay, everybody, strides. And everyone like goes and lines up and I'm just like standing there and I'm like, what in the fuck is a like, I know nothing. Yeah. Like I ran track in high school because...
But in high school track, not in coached club track.
No. And even then, like, high school track was like, okay, there's a Terry Fox meet in 4 weeks, so we're going to train like 3 mornings a week until then, and then it's gone.
Yeah, you're also...
I learned how to, like, start. That's all I learned. It might be different
for, obviously, depending on the school you go to. If you're going to, a school with...
Or the States versus Canada.
A track-specific program, or in the States, or, like Thousand Islands, or some of these schools that have these facilities and these coaching. But a lot of the high schools, especially in Canada, they're using their gym teachers as track coaches. Yeah, and these people don't have any formal training.
We were actually lucky, though. I feel like Mrs. Barnaby was a pretty more
competent than the average.
Yeah,
but I think a lot of her expertise were in distance stuff.
Yeah, she was a distance
long distance running, in cross-country skiing, cycling, things like that, which are completely different than doing sprint work, sprint drills,
jumps,
jumping stuff, technical stuff, which I think then when you're moving into the club track or, with coaches that have a lot of experience in that world, the technical side is very, very different, which is why you had done track for majority of high school, but like you still didn't have that movement pattern for doing the fast feet C's and A skips.
No, because
which is if you had done club track would be something that would be very well versed in.
The drills, or I didn't do drills. What I learned
which
was
is an absolute, like, that's the fundamentals
of track. It's the bread and butter.
Anyone that's done well coached track, A's, B's, C's, any of those skips, K skips, any of these bounding, this is going to be like the bread and butter foundation of your training.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I remember I had to learn how to run in spikes because I had never worn spikes before.
Yep.
I had to learn how to use the blocks because I had never used the blocks before. And then I practiced like running.
See, when you're like, and if you were going into like club track, this would be and you've already noticed, like, you saw the whole breakdown of the program we have over the next year. It's very specific and progressive.
Yes.
It's like we're not going out day one, like learning how to do blocks and running in spikes.
No.
We're probably not going to do that for a fucking year, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, like we are absolutely not putting on spikes or trying to get out of blocks anytime soon.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? It's like, oh, we have 4 weeks until the meet. You need to learn this stuff.
So it's more crunch time, where we have proper progressive programming.
Yeah.
You know, and we're building on the fundamentals, building on our level of fitness, and then it's going to build. You know, until you get to that point where maybe those things make sense, or where they're appropriate because you are at the point where doing a meet is a possibility. You don't need to learn how to do blocks if you're not even at the point where you can run a 100-meter at 100% speed yet. You know, why do you need to learn the blocks? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These are things that are a waste of time and also not necessary. You know. So we start at the bottom and we build, and you learn the fundamentals, build on the fundamentals. Then once you have the fundamentals down, you start to build on your fitness level, doing faster strides, longer strides, more tempo work. And we go from there, you know, more plyometric work, and you build your level of fitness and your level of ability and injury prevention, and then go from there, right? Yeah. I'm definitely going to be documenting this journey. I know I had a lot of people being like, oh, we want to see a video of this first one. I'm not going to give you the first one, okay? You know, I'm going into a world with people I didn't know yet. I know the coaches because I did run at this club when I was young, but it was a new group with new people, and I didn't want to be like stepping in their day one, like with a fucking camera in everybody's face. So will be a time for that.
I think maybe because like 2 days a week, it's like with a group and your coach.
Yeah.
You can also like do the workouts by yourself and film them.
Well, yeah, what the program that this group are doing now is going to be Mondays and Thursdays. The coach will be at the track, and then they're doing Tuesdays and Saturdays where the program is given to them and they meet up and they can conduct the practice on their own.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you get into more competitive groups, the coach is going to be there more often, and they're going to be training more days a week, like 3 or 4 days a week with the coach. But for where we are in our fitness level now, 2 days a week is perfectly fine, probably more than fine. And where we are, I definitely want to coach there for all the practices we're doing to give me a risk assessment on any exercises that might be there. Obviously, I know, like, when I saw them doing bounding, you saw me, I'm like, there's zero chance that my ass can do this right now. Or even if I could, I probably could have attempted it, but it probably wouldn't have been very safe. 260 pounds coming down, like, from that much velocity and height. That's like thousands of pounds of force on my knees and ankles.
Yeah.
Which just didn't really make sense yet. So, I want him there to kind of oversee. And then as I build both of us build our level of confidence and our level of fitness, and our, joints and tendons and ligaments have kind of adapted to this a little more, then we can obviously start going with the group on the days where he's not there. Right?
Yeah. Okay. 2 questions. Number 1, what are you most excited for in this new chapter of your life?
I don't really have like a singular answer to that.
Well, let's do personal, fitness, and business. Business you don't have to say because I feel like it's, maybe you want to keep it hush-hush.
I'll just give a few things here, but okay. From a personal standpoint, I'm definitely the most excited to have more time. Time with you, time with my family, and time that is unadulterated from bodybuilding. I want to be able to, like, we're going to my dad's for dinner tonight, and I'm not bringing meals. I'm going to sit and enjoy dinner with everybody else. And also things that I'd missed out on a lot of years because of bodybuilding, like going hunting with my dad, or going on vacations with you, like going on vacations was very difficult for me. You knew that. Even the times we did go, I was searching for resorts that had good reviews on the food and had accessibility to food.
I have to share this about you because it's actually really sweet. I didn't really travel when I was young. I didn't really have the chance to kind of experience different cultures and all that kind of stuff. And Iain's the type of person, anyone that knows him knows that he wants to like give everything that he has. Like anything that brings him any sort of happiness, he wants to share it with the world. So he really kind of was like taking me under his wing in terms of like traveling. Like the first time I went on a plane with you, I feel like I was still freaking out because I hadn't been on a plane since I was like 11 years old.
Yeah.
Even I remember going to Toronto with you and like looking at the skyscrapers in the cab, and you're like watching me like, this is normal. You know, we're in Toronto. But
yeah, I mean, even things with like food. I mean, you experienced
my
a lot
God,
of your
yeah.
first foods with me.
And that's another thing, right? I hadn't really tried very many different cuisines. And that's not because my parents didn't try. I was just very picky. And my parents honestly probably let me get away with murder. But despite your dedication to bodybuilding, you always tried so hard to like do those things with me
and give you those experiences. Yeah.
Give me those experiences within the realm that you could while still feeling like you were successful. Yeah. And I feel like there was a lot of like maybe anxiety. Sometimes you weren't as present because of that, but you always did it and you always tried. And that's like, you're such a good husband because of that. But now I'm just excited to do it and enjoy it with you. Because I feel like a lot of times I would be having a really good time and you'd kind of be like anxious or not as present or worried about this and worried about that. And now we can do it together and enjoy it together, which I think is going to be really, really cool.
I didn't want everybody's life to be on standstill because of my career. You know, I still wanted you to have cool new experiences. And I tried to do that as well as I could within the confines of bodybuilding, but it's not the same.
No.
You know, especially with traveling. You know, I know that you're someone that really wants to travel. You know, you've always wanted to go to Australia. We wanted to go to Asia. Like, there's a lot of places. And when I met Melissa, she'd never even left North America. I think you'd been to like Mexico or Cuba or something once.
I had been to Mexico once, and I think we were in Bahamas for like a day when we took a cruise once. But like very
That was with me.
No, when I was young with my parents.
Okay, sure.
But like very beautiful vacations, obviously, but like Americanized vacations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know, and there was a lot of things you hadn't tried and done, and that maybe I had done that I kind of wanted to introduce you to. So yeah, I was obviously trying to do those within the confines of bodybuilding, but it's very restrictive. You know, your ability to travel is very difficult.
It's so,
you know, especially to places that aren't very conducive to the eating and the lifestyle of a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
You know, for me to go spend 6 weeks in Thailand or Japan or something is fucking hard, you know?
Or even to go
and enjoy it.
Yeah, you're
I
not
could do
gonna.
it. I could do it and make it work, which we have done. But the level of enjoyment wasn't the same. Even when we took vacations.
Well, even then, we could only do it for a certain period of time because that level of anxiety it builds day after day, right? So the first 3 days are good, and then by 4, 5, 6, it's like I want to be back home. I need a full gym, like all these things.
And I'm at the resort. I'm trying to eat 6 meals a day and trying to eat them good. You know, it was very...
At a buffet, like getting food poisoning.
Yeah, it was something very, very hard for me to let go of, even for a short duration, because I knew to get to those next levels, every minute counted like that.
Yeah, of course.
And like, look, could I probably enjoyed a vacation and, you know, these things? And
well, no, you did.
Would it have made a vast difference? No, but that's just not who I am.
No.
You know, and I know there is guys that go on vacation, let it go for a week, and it doesn't faze them a bit.
Yeah.
That's just not me.
No.
You know, and that's something that made it very difficult to enjoy a lot of facets in life. You know, even the 1 year that I did go, or the couple years I did go hunting with my dad and Dylan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me.
Yeah.
You know, I was bringing meal prep meals. You're out all day. Like it was very hard. I'm walking miles a day. You know, I'd be midway through the trip and just be like very controlled and anxious about what this was doing to my physique, that I was just going to get home and have to.
Well, you'd feel like you were losing weight.
Repair on the back end, you know? And
yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is, you know, time that I'm losing.
Yeah.
That is going to be even more work now to get back.
Well, it's not, it's not, the thing is, people don't understand, especially when you're an open bodybuilder and you're holding on to that much extra tissue.
Your body doesn't want it.
It's not just time that you're losing, it's time that you're actually going backwards.
Yeah.
Because honestly, 2-3 days of whether you're eating less or burning way more, you're gonna lose.
Well, I mean, case
weight.
in point, since when I officially made the decision amongst us before I had announced it,
which is, it's been about
2 weeks.
10 days.
2 weeks,
Yeah.
You know, I just from going from 6, and this was eating prep meals too.
Yeah.
I wasn't eating like off-season calories. You know, I was in prep. I was eating, you know, reduced carb intake. I was doing cardio, and just from that switch from 6 meals down to
food was moderate. You stopped cardio though.
What do you mean?
Like when you weren't doing 2 sessions a day anymore.
Well, no. Sorry. after I made the decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was doing like weights one day, cardio stuff.
You even really probably reduced calories burned.
Yeah, I'm still doing cardio. I just wasn't doing it on the same days as weight training.
No, now there's probably less.
I'm reducing overall calories burned.
Yeah.
And just from the reduction in food, in 5 days, I lost 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not muscle tissue. I know muscle doesn't dissipate that quickly. That's going to be water and glycogen and stuff like that.
No, but you still, you still have to rebuild that glycogen and then start rebuilding muscle. So when you lose that much weight, it has to come back.
Yeah.
So that's just something that when you're that much over your homeostasis of your body, and it's especially if it's muscle, it wants to burn.
Yeah.
It does.
No, your body doesn't want it.
No.
It wants to return to homeostasis as fast as possible.
I mean, it's honestly the same with really, really overweight people. Yeah. If you make a very small change and do it for 4 or 5 days in a row, there's going to be a pretty drastic
tangible difference
reward,
So yeah, from a lifestyle standpoint, personal standpoint, those are the things, I want to be able to enjoy presence. Yeah. I want to be present with my family. I want to be present with you. I want to be present when we decide to go on vacations. And even more so when you start to bring children into the equation.
Yeah.
I want to be able to, make my kid breakfast and sit and eat breakfast with them. I want to be able to dick around, eat their snacks and play in the yard, not worry about got to get a meal in, And look, I know there's a lot of bodybuilders that have children that are completely competent parents and do a great job. But my mind, for me, just didn't feel that way. I knew it was going to cause a lot of stress and anxiety trying to add something into that equation that was taking time, that was going to add to that mix of trying to balance eating the meals, doing the training, and managing all that together.
Yeah, I also feel like you as a person have a lot to give. You know what I mean? I think everybody's different. You have a lot to give. And I think that's why there's a pretty big difference when you're so focused on something, because there's a lot missing.
Yeah.
Like who you are as a person, you're very infectious. You're very easy to connect with. People, you see people, you see things, you know what I mean? That starts to go away a little bit when you're so focused on this. And I think why we've been so happy through this is because there's so much normally that even when you're really focused or anxious about bodybuilding, there's still so much for me to have.
Sure.
But when you have kids, let's be serious, you do want to give them everything.
Yeah.
And you want to model the life that you want them to have.
Honestly, I said it the other time too. I don't want to get down the floor and play with my kid and take 10 minutes to get up and be like, babe, help me up. Look, I get down the floor and play with our dogs. It's fucking hard for me to get up.
Yeah.
This is not an easy task getting 270, 280, 300 pounds up and down off the floor. I didn't want to feel that way anymore.
No.
I want to feel fit and healthy and excited for these things that I could do them competently.
Yeah.
And not be dreading these things, or start to alter how I interact in my world because of them.
Yeah.
It was kind of a coinciding goal. I wanted to get my weight down so that I would feel healthier. Not that I don't feel healthy, but I know that from a BMI standpoint, I am morbidly obese. When you're 5'10", you're 270 plus pounds 99% of the year. I know that takes a toll on your body, no matter how well you eat and how good your cardiovascular fitness is. I know that is taxing on your heart and your internal organs.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get down to a point where I felt fit and that my body could do anything that it wanted to do from a activity and fitness standpoint in my day-to-day life. And that coincided very well with a long-time passion of mine of running. And I think why, and this is a question I've got from a lot of people, is aren't you scared to just watch your muscle dissipate? And the answer is, if I didn't have other goals that kind of coincided with being a little smaller, maybe I would.
Yeah.
If I was just retiring from bodybuilding and letting my muscle kind of waste away as I didn't do anything else, I'm still going in the gym but eating less. And yeah, probably. There would probably be a sense of anxiety around that, because it is something that took you a long time to build and it took a lot of work. But I picked a new goal, and why I jumped into it so fast, because I picked a goal that paired well with it. Being faster and being lighter go hand in hand. And I know if I'm motivated to be faster and to get my level of fitness higher, I'll also be motivated to get my weight down, and I won't be so worried about the idea of being smaller per se. Do I ever think I'm going to be 195 pounds? Obviously not. Do I think that to get faster and to feel more fit, my weight's going to come down a good chunk? Absolutely. But I think for my long-term health and my long-term mental well-being, and just helping me sleep at night in terms of like, what am I doing to myself in the long term? I really wanted to be, I don't know what the word for this is, but I wanted to be optimistic that I was making the absolute best choices to give myself the best level of longevity. And obviously when you pair that with bodybuilding, you're kind of getting into like a mental contradiction here, you know?
It's very similar to maybe people that like drink a lot. Mm-hmm. The older you get, and when you're young, you can go out every weekend and get blitzed, and then you're hungover, and then you're fine. The older you get, you start to be like, what am I actually doing to my internal health every time that I do this? And it's, especially if you're a health conscious person, it's very hard to continue activities that are making you question how much you're respecting your body.
Well, yeah, and as you get older, I think this is with most people, I think at least, most sane people, I think. No offense to anybody.
Most health conscious people.
Well, I think that as you get older, your mortality becomes more present. Your sense of mortality becomes more present.
More real, yeah.
More real. It's like, man, I'm 33 years old. Even if I was to live to 100, I've lived 1/3 of my life already.
Yeah.
And what have I done? I bodybuilded the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted to, you know, feel that I could be doing all the right steps. Like, look, you know me, I want to live to be a fucking million years old. I'm not like someone that's like, get bigger, die trying, or as long as I'm huge, I'll, you know, if I live to 60, it's okay. I would have been doing what I love.
No, you grew up in a family that's extremely health conscious. You are very aware of how you feel, and like, I swear you're the type of person that if you had cancer, you would like know you had it. You know, like those type of people that are so aware of their bodies. And your parents are very, very similar.
Yeah.
So there's not really any room for you to, I mean,
no, like I want to live
take
to be
your
a
shit for granted,
grandfather, great grandfather.
Yeah.
And I knew that I needed to make a change in terms of what I was doing with my life, to make me feel at ease with that.
Yeah.
You know, and it was starting to get to a point where it wasn't aligning, that I was having a lot of anxiety. And look, this is not saying like my health is great. I've done all my heart scans and blood work and, you know, EKGs and echoes and calcium score. And I've done all that. And that still didn't make me feel more safe. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure there's people that can do these things and it gives them a sense of peace. But I didn't have that. Mm-hmm. You know, I was like, I don't think this is the whole story. I think that there's still going to be a long-term toll of what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And that gave me a lot of fear and anxiety. And yeah, fear of the future and the long-term consequences of what I was doing. And I'm not sitting here telling anybody to stop bodybuilding or that you shouldn't pursue what you love, even if there is consequences. Look, it's fucking dangerous to get into a Formula One car. It's dangerous to do boxing. It's dangerous to get in your car and drive to work every day. There is dangers associated with a lot of shit we do, you know? But it came to a point where it's like, I don't need to be doing this. I'm excited to do other things. And those other things also align with what I'm feeling in my mind of wanting to maximize my chance at living a long and healthy life, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. And then I think in terms of other goals and things in life that I want to do, look, in terms of like my world and social media and stuff like that, I'm not going anywhere, you know? Like I'm still going to be doing my YouTube and documenting this new training and stuff like that. But there's also other things I want to do. I mean, you know, I've talked to you and, you know, I'd like to try my hand at judging in some bodybuilding, see if that's something I enjoy. I think that is something I'd be great at. There's obviously other business ventures that I won't get into here on that you're aware of that I'm excited to explore. You know, and then I'm also just excited from the standpoint of being able to interact with people in a different capacity now. You know, like going and doing more events and more live podcasts with Fuad and going and, you know, doing different things like that, you know, things that I might have been hesitant to do while I was in my career because of like the traveling and, you know, the fear of how it's going to interfere with that. You know, I mean, even just the other day, like we were at the gym and some kid came up and, you know, he knew who I was and asked for a picture. And then he's just like, do you mind if I ask you some questions? And I sat there and I talked with the kid for like 30 minutes. if I was in the middle of my career, like, look, I always have loved to talk to people, but I would have kind of like edged it along so I could get back to my workout. I didn't give a shit. And I was very excited to be able to like share what I knew and share my knowledge and not worry about, oh, is this going to ruin my workout? You know, and that gave me like a lot of sense of fulfillment being able to give back and share the knowledge that I have. And I could tell that he was very appreciative of it. And I gave him a lot of information that he was probably confused about and Googling and finding contradicting, what should I train like this, train like this. And look, I'm not saying I know the answers to everything, what I say and what another pro bodybuilder says, but I think for someone like that, when they're feeling unsure about some of the things they're doing, to hear it from someone that's done it to the level I have, gives them a little bit of peace and sense of assurity and confidence going into the gym and doing what they're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And that made me feel very good, you know? Like those are things that I'm excited to do more and explore more for sure. It's just like giving back and being part of the community in more of a informative capacity.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to fly us to Australia so we can do seminars, please contact me.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's an exciting new world that's, you know, just unchained from bodybuilding a little bit, but I still have all that knowledge and connections and relationships that I've built in my 15-year career that I'm excited to explore more and explore in a different capacity, and explore, you know, new endeavors and options and business opportunities with these people and these connections that I've built, you know?
Yeah. Okay, to sign off, we're going to say our favorite, I don't want to say memory, but like favorite part of your career that we've experienced. And it can be I'll go first.
Okay.
It can be overarching. My favorite part, especially in the last couple of years, is because I haven't been competing. Obviously, I've just been with you as your wife. And I probably will attest this to who you are as a person, but the people that we have met and the way that I have been included and treated in Iain's career, whether it be fans or promoters or judges or...
These are your fans too, though.
Yeah, but people at your shows, you know,
Sure.
It's been really, really special. And I know every time that I would go with you to like an athletes meeting or someone would be interviewing you. Like, it's just, there's so much genuine connection. And I truly believe that's because who you are. You know what I mean? I feel like I couldn't even count on my hands and my toes how many times I've cried because I've had such a good interaction or connection with someone at shows and at expos and at events. And I think it's just like so cool. And I'm so thankful. And I'm excited to keep, you know, meeting people and seeing people and watching other people's careers flourish and continue. Yeah. And I think there's, just because both of us have decided to leave the sport, that doesn't mean that we don't love it as much as we used to.
From a competitive sense, but not from a total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, like I have so much joy and fondness for bodybuilding, and like the amount of memories and connections that I have within this like sport, whatever you want to call it, the league. I don't know. I'm so thankful for it. I could never imagine my life without it. You know what I mean? Like who I am as a person is like directly because of our life within bodybuilding.
I think we can cap it off at that then. I don't got a better answer than that. I feel I'd give a very similar answer. I mean, it's, you know, because I'm not going to say like winning this show or doing this thing or coming second at the Arnold or winning, you know, obviously I do have specific experiences that I hold in my mind different than others. But when you really look back at your career, those are the things that you hold the most fondly, you know, like the connections I built, the people I've met, you know, the people who still message me now and be like, man, you know, your career and watching you has like inspired me or changed my life, like things like that those are the most meaningful things, you know?
Yeah.
Like those are the things that you carry with you. And it's like, yeah, winning a show is awesome and all that's great, but like they're very like
fleeting
and singular moments, you know, which, yeah, they're awesome. And like, yeah, it was cool to win the Texas Pro and beat Steve Kuklo at home. Sure. But do I feel that has as much meaning and impact on my life as the other things, you know, that it has, you know, the people I've met and the differences that people have attested that I've made to them or their training or their outlook on life, or whether it's me talking on the podcast about mental health or, you know, whatever it is, you know, or even just shooting the shit with the guys and talking about bullshit. And it's like people are like, man, this is the best part of my day watching the podcast. No matter how shitty of a mood I'm in, it always puts me in a better mood. Like those are things that I'll always look back on and will continue to do and pursue in a different capacity now. But those are the things I'm obviously always going to look back on with the most fond memories for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say that there's so much symbiosis when it comes to the inspiration that people like get from you, or the relatability that people get from me, because even by you taking 2 seconds out of your day to write a comment or to send a DM and say something about how we've impacted you, you have no idea how much that impacts us.
Yeah.
There's
more than they know.
Yeah. There's so much like exchange of energy, and like it's real connection. That's how I believe like true connection is formed. So I think it's pretty fucking cool, and I'm excited.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
It's a good cap. Sign her off.
I don't have a sign off.
What do you say at the end? Thanks for tuning in, guys.
We'll Love ya. Bye. No, thank you guys so much for listening to Giver. I've said it a million times. I love you guys, and I'm so happy to be on here every week, just rambling, and I hope whatever.
Hope you enjoy it too.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Yeah. It's exciting. Brave new world we're in here, so I'm excited to enjoy it all.
Now I'm going to go red light and do
now
it.
I have no excuse not to do your podcast every time you ask me.
Yeah. It might be a lot.
Yeah, sure. It's fun. It's good.
I need to ask Fuad's permission.
Yeah. No, you don't.
Fuad, are you listening? Summer, tell Fuad I need permission.
I'm the one that asks his permission.
Okay, well, I love you guys, and we'll see you next week.